First off, I feel pretty naked because I'm not behind a computer screen and I don't have a table in front of me, and this is awkward.
How's everybody doing today? Good. Well, we are Crime Weekly. I'm Stephanie Harlow.
I'm Derek Lavasser.
Today we're basically filming a Crime Weekly News, which is our shorter segment, because if you watch Crime Weekly, you know that if we were to do an entire Crime Weekly episode, we'd all be sitting here for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. And part of the reason we're covering the case that we're going to cover today is for a few different reasons. Obviously, you're all here. You see how great CrimeCon really is. I think a lot of people still are uncertain of what CrimeCon consists of, and I think us spreading this message and showing all the positive things that can come out of it is really important. So when I look around Creator Row and I see all the families here who have unfortunately been affected by tragedy, being able to come to this one event and be able to talk face-to-face with so many content creators in one space is something that is absolutely necessary. As a former law enforcement officer, I'm the first person to admit we don't always get it right. And we're seeing more and more with the advancements in science and technology and also content creators and the platforms that they have, and people like you guys, we're able to solve cases without law enforcement. So we wanted to highlight a case where the family is here right now. It's gonna be Megan Trussell, and Joe and Vanessa are in the crowd. Joe and Vanessa, do you wanna say hello? Put your hands up. They're right there, there they are. Okay. And unfortunately, Joe and Vanessa are one of the many families who have gone through something and are trying to get the message out there and get their loved one's story told. So it was that, coupled with the fact that this case actually took place right here in Colorado in February of 2025. And a lot of you probably don't know about it, and that's a problem. So we're gonna probably do a Crime Weekly full-fledged deep dive, maybe multiple episodes, but at minimum, we wanted to give you some overall coverage of the case. We're gonna give you, Joe and Vanessa, a chance to talk at the end if you'd like, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A. So we could go a lot deeper with this. I covered it on Detective Perspective. We're gonna cover it here. Stephanie was researching it a little bit. We wanna do a lot deeper of a dive, but we at least wanted to get the story out there today.
Yeah, and I think Derek alluded to this, or said it straight out because there's an echo and I can't really hear, but this is what CrimeCon's about. CrimeCon, it's great to meet people that you see on TV or that you see on YouTube or you hear in your podcast, but walking amongst us right now are family members and loved ones of actual victims who come here to raise awareness for the person that they've lost, whether they're missing or have been taken from us. And that is the most important thing, and that's what we really wanted to bring it back to here, talking about Megan. So I'm gonna give you a brief overview, and then we're gonna kind of go through the bullet points of what's going on, what happened to Megan, and then at the end of that, we're gonna ask you, do you want us to cover this more in depth on Crime Weekly and do a multi-part series, which is what we do. So this happened on the night of February 9th, 2025. 18-year-old Megan Trussell was last seen leaving her dorm at the University of Colorado Boulder. 6 days later, her body was discovered down a steep embankment in Boulder Canyon, several miles away. She had bruises, scrapes, head injuries. Her teeth were broken, and her phone, purse, and one of her shoes was gone. Weeks later, her phone did surface at an Eco ATM. The phone had been sold by a stranger. Her purse was also found miles away from where her body was found. Its clasp was ripped open. Her missing shoe has never been recovered. Now, despite these troubling details, law enforcement, the authorities, concluded that no foul play had occurred. Megan's family obviously strongly disagrees. They believe this case was not fully or thoroughly investigated, and that the truth about what happened to Megan is still being overlooked. And they are here today, still fighting for answers, still looking for the truth, and that's why we're talking about it.
This case really resonated with me when I initially read about it, because for anybody, has anybody seen Breaking Homicide? When I covered some cases there, right? Devin Schmidt was a case that I covered where it was similar circumstances, different also, but another case where an ME looks at it and says because there's something in her system that clearly this wasn't any type of foul play. Clearly she did this to herself. Clearly she stuffed these drugs down her throat, and she did this before anybody arrived. And I called bullshit on that one. We went out there and essentially proved that that's not what happened. And yet you had this ME who was not willing to change their findings, even though I brought in 3 other MEs that disagreed with this person. So although I know sometimes in true crime you want to believe that these experts are always going to be right the first time around, the reality is that's not the case. It's not the case for detectives. It's not the case for crime scene investigators. It's not the case for MEs. Sometimes they get it wrong. Yes, it's a science, but it's an interpreted science, right? They're going to look at the evidence and come to their own conclusion. So when I read Megan's case, and we're going to get into some of the details why this ME had some problems with it, other than the fact that they said there were no signs of, any type of trauma. There definitely was. We're going to go more in detail on that. It was also the fact that there was something found in her esophagus. I don't want to steal the thunder here, where there was some reservations about it, which I completely disagree with the law enforcement agency as far as what they believe could have happened.
So a little bit about Megan. She was raised right here in Denver, Colorado by her parents, Vanessa and Joseph. She has an older sister, Lindsay. She was big into film. She wanted to eventually become a filmmaker, and that's what she was majoring at Boulder. She loved 90s grunge music. She also played the bass guitar. And when she started college, she was thriving socially, academically. She even texted her father shortly after arriving saying college rules. Seemed to be having a good time. Now, she was last heard from on February 9th, 2025. That was Super Bowl Sunday. And I guess what had happened is there was a little tension between herself and her roommate.
Yep.
At the time, on February 9th, there was something of an argument. Megan's boyfriend was there at the time. He ended up leaving. He didn't want to be a part of the drama. He went home. Now, his mother confirmed that he arrived home about 15 minutes after he would have left Megan's dorm. We also have Megan leaving the dorm, and we capture her on surveillance footage.
Yeah, she was leaving the hall. One thing to point out, we're not going to go into all the details right here, but there was some tension between the roommates, as Stephanie said, and there's one important note to make here, which is that according to what we have, the boyfriend broke up with Megan before leaving, said he didn't want any involvement with it. And the reason I bring this up is because this is where there are a lot of people out there that believe this was a suicide, as we're going to go through this. I've said it right on my episode. I don't think this is a suicide or a homicide. I think it's a homicide or an accident. I don't think suicide's in play here, but one of the things they would point to for the people who believe this was a suicide is that this argument happens or this disagreement happens between Megan and her boyfriend. She breaks up with him and then decides, I'm going to kill myself within a matter of minutes. And that's what Stephanie's referring to here, where you see her leaving the dorm room. She's not dressed for the weather, and we're supposed to believe that she's just going to walk off about an hour away and kill herself. And it just doesn't make sense. So that's one thing that if you hear people say, this could have been a suicide, this is one of the pieces of information they'll point to, that the motive behind it might have been that her boyfriend broke up with her and she decided to take her own life.
Which I don't believe that.
No, we don't believe that. We don't believe
Absolutely not. So
he isn't that great. He's not that great.
Yeah. So around 9 o'clock is when the argument with the roommate happened. Megan's boyfriend is present. He leaves around 9:17 p.m. to go home. And at 9:36 p.m., Megan is seen exiting Hallett Hall alone. As Derek said, she's not really dressed for the weather, right? She's wearing white platform shoes, red pants, a black t-shirt, and yes, a jacket, but like a denim style jacket, a light spring jacket, not something you would wear on a February night where the temps are going to fall into, the low 20 degrees. What's also important is she was carrying a blue and pink crossbody purse with a star. This was handmade by her mother. Very important to Megan. So it's one of a kind, really cute purse. Megan's mother has made other purses like this.
She has one with her, I believe.
She has one with her right there.
You see right there. That's the exact purse, right? That's the exact dimensions. That's the look. There's only a couple of them in existence. Obviously, Vanessa has the other one.
So this was a very important purse to her, and this is going to come into play. It had reinforced stitching on it, where the handle and everything kind of clasped into the body of the purse. So the last time that Megan was seen on security footage was 9:52 p.m. This was near Champions Center. Now there are phone pings from Megan's phone. 10:45 p.m. by Eben G. Park, which is at the start of the Boulder Canyon. And then again at 11:55 p.m. near the 40-mile marker of Boulder Canyon Drive. And then after that, the phone either died or was shut off. When Derek said an hour walk, it's actually, I think it was a 90-minute walk from her.
I think the
from
Eben
her
G
dorm.
was 52 minutes. About that. So I had said, is it possible she could make the walk based on the time stamps? Yes, it is possible. She could have made that walk. If she had gotten to that location within 15 minutes, no doubt she was driven there, right? But you have to take into all the circumstances as far as accounting, is it possible? Yes, it's possible, but we're talking about 20-degree weather. I wish we had visuals here. Obviously in the episode we would, but she's in a very thin sweater or whatever it is. It's not the weather or the jacket you'd want to be in if you're going to make an hour walk. So I'll put it out there just to be honest. Yes, it's possible. She could have made the walk. To me, it leaves some questions. If she was in a bad headspace, maybe the argument had her in a place where she's like, you know what, I don't care. I just want to go for the walk. I can see that. But there's also a possibility that she was driven out to this location, and then when you have that ping, she may have been at that park for an extended period of time. So it's still possible that she got out there in 15 minutes, and then when you get the ping, that's at the park. So a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, but this is why, to me, this case is so fascinating.
So Megan leaves her dorm on February 9th. It's not till February 12th where her mother and her sister Lindsay realize, hey, we haven't heard from Megan in a few days. And this is not uncommon. I have a 23-year-old daughter. She's moved out on her own now. Sometimes I don't talk to her for several days because she's got a boyfriend and work and she's got things going on. And I'm not trying to be that mother that's texting her every day. And,
I will be. I'm that guy. I will be that guy. Sorry, TEP. It's happening.
I'm not a helicopter.
And if they don't answer, we will be setting out search and rescue.
So at that point, Vanessa, her mother, checked phone records and confirmed, okay, no, Megan's phone hasn't been used since February 9th at 8:45 p.m. So then Megan's sister Lindsay goes to Megan's roommate, and the roommate confirms, yes, the last time I saw her was Super Bowl Sunday, February 9th. So the parents tried to report her missing to the campus police.
That's right.
And they said, no, she's probably couch surfing. You know, we see this all the time. We hate it. We cannot stand to see this. Every time a person goes missing, if they're over the age of 18 and the police or the authorities hear about it, well, they're an adult. You know, they could be shacking up with someone, or they could be just hanging out. They have their own lives. They don't need to be in contact with you. They'll be fine. They'll turn up in a few days. And in the meantime, valuable time is passing to be conducting an investigation and looking for this person. But by the end of a few days, the case was taken seriously. The FBI was brought in. They started a search. Multiple agencies searched with drones, dogs, dive team. They didn't find anything. Now, it wasn't until February 15th when park rangers, not law enforcement, park rangers, spotted Megan's body below the slope in Boulder Canyon. She was found lying on her back down a steep embankment near a culvert where there was a homeless encampment. There's a lot of things going on at this scene, and I'm going to try to say it all without being jumbled, but there was a broken stick near Megan's right side. There was dirt debris under her fingernails. As we talked about, her right shoe was missing, and on that foot there was a torn sock. She also had her jacket, that denim jacket that she was wearing, which was kind of long.
Yep.
It was all bunched up and had a ripped sleeve. Now, near her, on her right hand, there was an inside-out fingerless glove. As far as Megan's parents know, this is not her glove. She was also lying on top of a pair of dark pants, which she was not seen wearing in any of the surveillance footage. These don't appear to be her pants. We don't know whose pants they are. To this day, they have not been identified. But as I said, there's a homeless encampment nearby, so there's going to be lots of stuff in this area that we really can't identify.
Yeah, and I really wish we had the photo here. If you have a chance after this, you can go watch Detective Perspective. You'll see all the visuals in there. The best way to describe this embankment, and Joe and Vanessa, you can correct me at the end if I'm wrong here, but just looking at Google Maps, I studied it for hours. To me, yes, it's an embankment. Yes, you could definitely get hurt if you fell down it, but if you're gonna pick a place where you're gonna attempt to kill yourself, not to be crass, there's a better spot. This would not be the place that's gonna get the job done. It's very rocky. It almost, to me, looks like you would see it near a beach or something like that. There's this culvert that's right next to it. And from where I'm sitting, it would look like something that if you were to end up where she ended up, you would have fallen or been pushed. I don't even know physically how she would have jumped and landed in this location. Again, it's always tough without the visuals, it sucks. We're gonna do our best to describe it, but we're saying this embankment, as we're describing people having to rappel down to get to her, you could definitely walk down it if you had to. And that's important here because, again, to go back to the whole suicide theory, these are the factors you have to consider.
Yeah, I think what Derek's saying is if you're trying to kill yourself, it's not a sure thing.
No.
But this would do the trick, which is concerning. So we talked about how this one of her socks or one of her shoes was never found, but there's two other things that weren't found with Megan's body, and that was her purse and her cell phone. All right, so let's start with the initial autopsy, the ME's initial findings. At first, the ME had called Megan's parents and said, there's no signs of trauma. Megan's body has no signs of trauma. When Megan's parents got the autopsy report, that turned out to not be true. She did have actual injuries, including bruises and abrasions across her hands, her arms, her legs, her back, her chest, her face. She had large contusions on her arms. She also had a dark hip bruise, multiple abrasions on her back, lacerations and abrasions on her face and head, and what I think to be very important and the most concerning, broken teeth on the left side of her mouth. Now, they did toxicology, obviously, and they found pills. They found several undigested pills in her esophagus and her stomach, and this turned out to be Adderall. Now, Megan did have a prescription for Adderall. As far as I can tell, they said the level of the Adderall in her system was toxic but not typically fatal, but the cause of death ended up being ruled suicide due to the toxic effects of the Adderall plus cold exposure. Let's go back to what Derek said. And you said this in your Detective Perspective episode. If you're going to take your own life, and I say I'm on Adderall, if you're going to take your own life, you're not going to do it with Adderall. That would be a very silly thing to do. I don't know if anybody's ever done that, how it would happen. I feel like that would be a very scary, anxiety-ridden way to go. So Derek says, and a lot of these pills are not digested, right? So Derek says, why would you sit in this area, pop a bunch of pills in your mouth, wait a few seconds or a few minutes and say, you know what? I'm actually going to throw myself down into this ravine where there's not even an absolute certainty that this will take my life either. It doesn't make any sense.
And quickly, it was, I believe the exact description was a ball of pill-like material, right? That was the exact description from the ME in her esophagus. It didn't even exactly say exactly what that material was. So all this, they deduced that she killed herself. She basically threw herself down 8 feet of rock after taking these pills. That was this, after walking an hour out into the middle of nowhere.
So the phone ended up being found, well, actually, I think the purse was found first, correct?
Well, the phone was what you guys started looking into. That's the Eco ATM. I believe that was first. The Eco ATM was what happened first, where they actually did the work, not law enforcement.
Yeah, the parents actually ended up.
Law enforcement couldn't find it, so Vanessa had to step up and find it. Detective.
Yeah, I believe they went to the homeless encampment.
Yeah, that's a round of applause, for sure. For sure. All her years of experience.
They went to the homeless encampment, and I guess they started asking around, like, if a phone was found or stolen, what would you do with it? And they were told, well, we would probably go to an Eco ATM. And for anybody who doesn't know, an Eco ATM it's an ATM machine basically for electronics. And you can put the electronics in, and then the system reads it and gives you a quote for how much you will get paid for that. And they actually, Vanessa did call Eco ATM, reported Megan's phone missing. 2 days later, they're like, yeah, we found it. Okay?
Let me ask you something. I hate to be critical here. You think that's something you might want to do? Go visit the homeless area where these people might have seen something and say, hey, what would you do if you found something? Or did you see anything? And I'm pro-cop. You guys know that. But these are the areas where I get frustrated because although I commend you for what you did, you shouldn't have to. It should have already been done. So it's frustrating for me, but glad you did it because otherwise we may not have found the phone. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is I always like to spoil these, and Stephanie always gets mad at me, but this leads somewhere. This is important. Stephanie's like, shut up, just let me keep going. I'm in my groove.
No, I mean.
Yeah.
So I think what's interesting is the parents had never been told that Megan's phone and purse were even missing.
It wasn't until later, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't until
the 25th, February 25th. 10 days, yep.
Which is, that's insane, right? And
insane.
Once they have that information, they're the ones that track the phone down. So the police have this information for 10 days, and they don't follow this lead to bring them to the Eco ATM. Now, the interesting thing about the phone is, and I want to ask Megan's parents, it was traded into the Eco ATM. It was wiped before it was fed into the machine. And I'm just not sure what type of phone can be wiped without having an Apple ID password, a cloud password, even a Google email address password. I think all phones have certain, right, yeah, she's nodding, she knows what I mean. All phones have these certain, basically anti-theft measures. That way if somebody takes your phone, they can't just wipe all of your information out of it and sell it. So would you guys be willing to let us know whether it was an iPhone, a Samsung? A Samsung.
Probably easier to wipe.
So they factory reset it, basically.
Yeah.
And switched, it was a different SIM card too.
Different SIM card.
Different
Also swapped
SIM
out the SIM
card.
card as well. One other note with the February 25th that I thought was important, it was you guys who decided to do the flyers or put the posters out of the purse and the phone, was it as well? Again, that was them that went to this area where she was last seen and said, hey, has anybody seen this very detailed purse that is you can't go buy in a store? They went out there and did that. And also, as of late, you guys went or tried to go back out to that area with bags. Was it bags where they went out to this homeless encampment area where people obviously are looking for food, and they went out there to try to provide that for them and put Megan's information on the bag. Genius. And they go every Sunday, and I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but you actually had some pushback on this.
Yes, Boulder County, they wouldn't let us do it on their property during their hours.
Boulder County would not let these parents go out there and just put this information out there for their daughter because it was an inconvenience or you needed like a permit for it.
They said you're on the dispute with the county.
Their ongoing dispute with the county because they didn't agree with their findings. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And Haley Gray is a big part of this. She's someone who writes for me on Detective Perspective. She's an angel. I don't know if she's here. Is she here right now, Haley? She doesn't like to be seen. She doesn't like to be seen. Haley's great.
All right, so they find the phone and they end up finding out that it was fed into this eco ATM by a man named Elliot Beaufort. Now, he was a homeless man. He had ties to that area. They talked to Elliot Beaufort and he claimed he found it. And he said he got it from a guy named Travis. And Travis had given it to Elliot to sell because out of their little group, Elliot was the only one who had an ID, and you need an ID to do this eco ATM thing. So Travis ends up being a guy named Alexander Connor. Now, I believe Alexander Connor was in prison at the time of Megan's disappearance, correct?
That day, the 9th, but he was out shortly after, yeah.
When the police talked to him, he said he did take the purse, but he later abandoned it on a bike trail, and the only thing he took from the purse was Megan's vape. Now, that purse would be found by a woman. I think she was biking.
Yes.
She found the purse, and there were credit cards inside and an empty Adderall bottle. Okay, so this is interesting because, once again, I had questions for Megan's parents. Do we know when the last time Megan's Adderall prescription was filled? A week before. So there was cash taken out of her purse, a vape, things like that, but no credit cards because they can be tracked, and the Adderall bottle, but it's empty. And there was Adderall pills found in Megan's stomach and esophagus.
Correct.
So is it possible that there was foul play, that somebody did something to Megan in order to steal her purse, get what they could out of it, cash, maybe even some of that Adderall, her cell phone, and sell it? And they fed her some of those pills to make it appear as if she had taken them, and then they took the rest. Because if her Adderall prescription had been filled a week before, that's an entire month's prescription. And I don't know many people who are going to find a bottle of Adderall when they're stealing things from a purse and leave that Adderall there. Once again, I also don't know anybody who's going to pop a bunch of Adderall to take their own lives. It's insane. So she had some, and they were undigested, right?
In her, I thought it was just a pill-like material that was found.
I have new information about all that.
Well, we're going to let you, you're definitely going to be telling us at the end of this. Yeah, it's, to me, when you look at it and you look at the possible scenarios, just based on what you've heard so far, we've only been going for 25 minutes. A lot of part-time detectives out there. We find her purse, her phone, found by these unidentified individuals at the time, nowhere near where she was found. And yet we're to believe that it's more likely she walked out there, didn't encounter these guys, and it just so happens that her purse strap breaks, which was sewn by the person right here who would know how well
When
it was
the
done.
purse was found, there was a broken clasp.
Yep.
Megan's mother is like, no, I reinforced stitched that. I made sure that that wouldn't happen, because, people run by, try to snatch your purse, things like that. You're going to reinforce it. The clasp was found broken. On top of that, all the injuries that Megan did suffer, the abrasions, the broken teeth, and you've got the weird pills, and then her Adderall's gone, her phone's gone, it's being sold.
That's right. How many people are leaning suicide at this point?
Yeah, does it sound like a suicide?
If you put your hand up, get out. That was a trick question. No, I mean, common sense, right? If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? It doesn't take a detective to figure out there's something more going on here. And you have two individuals you just identified that are clearly lying. So the question is why? Why are they lying? And also my question is what's being done now? Also, before I forget, the entire investigative report has been released because of the classification of this case. So it's available. I'll let you say that it's on my site as well, but also I'm sure you have a website. Go read the entire thing. It's in depth, but I strongly urge you to do so because there's even more information in there than we're discussing here.
Yeah, and they never is it true that they never tested the pill material found?
Oh, they did.
They did.
Okay. And was there blood and other things, fingernail clippings and things?
They did. They didn't test any of that.
They didn't test the blood or the fingernail clippings.
They did a neck swab. They did a rape.
Vanessa, if you want to come up to
They
the
did
mic,
a
come up
neck
to the
swab,
mic.
they did a rape
You're more
kit.
knowledgeable about this than us. Give a hand for Vanessa, everybody. Yeah.
So when they first released the autopsy results, right? First of all, I kept calling the coroner's office asking when they were going to have the autopsy released. They said they were waiting for toxicology. I later learned that they didn't release the autopsy until May 27th, a week after school got out for spring semesters in Boulder. They had the toxicology since March 7th. So very clearly didn't want any of that to get out while people were still there going to school. So on May 27th, we came back with the coroner, the assistant DA, all these other people, and they're like, no big suicide. So I had a lot of technical questions about the autopsy itself. And they said, well, we can't answer those questions. You have to talk to the forensic pathologist. So on June 4th, we got to talk to the forensic pathologist. And we were like, how is this? It's not a lethal level of animal. And she's been taking it for 4 years. She would know that that wouldn't kill her. It would make her psychotic, maybe, and that's not a sure way to kill yourself. She had $3,000 in the bank account. She was a good saver. She's such a good kid. No history of suicidal ideation, no self-injury, nothing like that. So I was really pushing. Well, how would you say this is a suicide when you have no proof? And the forensic pathologist said, well, it was the sheer volume of pill material in her stomach and esophagus. It was so much that the lumen in her esophagus was distended, and she'd never seen anything that large before. And I said, okay, who has that much Adderall? And they said, well, she had 4 empty bottles in her dorm. And I said, she has ADHD. She doesn't throw anything away. Did you see how the trash?
It's so true.
That's like Stephanie's house.
You don't want to see my house, no. No.
Throw anything away. She's not stockpiling Adderall.
Yeah.
By the way, like she needs it.
You need
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So I said, even then, even if she took the whole pill bottle that she had, that is not that amount big. So I found out it was 200 milliliters of, which originally our detective said it was a softball size. 200 milliliters is less than an 8 ounce, like a can of V8 is the way I see it. I asked, did you test it? You're so sure it's pill material, did you test it? Because what else is it? It can't be Adderall. And they all looked at each other. No, we didn't. So Joe, who had to leave, actually, he went to go watch an LSU game.
Wow. Wow, Joe.
I mean, he didn't realize we were going to be talking today. So
Okay.
in his defense. So Joe actually demanded, you need to get that tested. So they sent it in, got it tested. The results came back, and they were like, yes, it's edible. And they put this ridiculous number out there to the public, 1.7 million nanograms per milliliter. But that's undigested in her stomach. A friend of mine is a statistician, and so we sat down and ran the numbers. In that quantity, in that percentage, that's 5 to 7% of the 200 milliliters. So what else is in her stomach?
Right.
And I asked that question originally, and then I was like, I don't care what's in her stomach. Like, I don't care what the rest of it is. The bottom line is, you said it was all pill material, and that's why it's so exciting that it was a fall of this act, that she intended to end her life by taking all these pills. Well, the rest of that, 93% of what else is in her stomach is not anything that came up on the NMS lab's toxicology. So it's 97%. Nothing. It's in our, whatever it is, it's food, I don't know what it is, salt. They claim to say that it's pill material of like Adderall beans. By the way, there's no pill casings, no evidence of any of that. I asked the coroner to have it quantified by NMS labs because they still have the sample. By the way, they didn't keep the whole sample, and I learned that right there is a good step. They should have kept the whole quantity, because how did they know that it was consistent throughout, right? They took 35 milliliters of it and had that analyzed. So, if the whole thing was consistent in that 35 milliliters, it would be 5 to 7% of the entire contents of her stomach.
So moral of the story, she didn't die from overdosing on Adderall. That's the moral of the story. And it's one of the many reasons that we're covering the case today because, and I don't know if I'm stepping on you, is there other things you wanted to hit? What's my opinion on what happened? Again, it's just an opinion. I think there's enough here between the autopsy report to show that there was clearly a struggle, at minimum, a struggle. You have multiple individuals who, in my opinion, attempted to disperse the evidence in different locations away from where the crime occurred to try to avoid any type of detection that they were involved with it. And unfortunately, they were so stupid that they brought it to an eco-ATM where their names would be tracked, and now they're starting to reverse engineer it. Boulder's more than likely not going to reopen it on their own. So why are we covering it? Well, we have seen over time, as I said at the top of this episode, that we can make a difference. If there's enough public pressure, things can change, because overall, politicians need to be reelected, right? And they're reelected by votes, people like yourself. There's probably a lot of people that are from that area right in this very room. So if enough people complain and enough people bring it to the attention of those decision makers, I promise you they'll reopen it. And from that point, I don't want the same investigators looking at it. They've already came to their own conclusion here. We need a fresh perspective. We need a new set of eyes. Personally, I'd like someone from an outside party, independent investigators, to come in and look at it and see what they figure out. As I said at the top of the show, my opinion, more than likely this is a homicide. Is it possible that it was an accident? Yes, I can't completely discredit that. Based on where she was found, is it possible she went out there and unfortunately and I can't even get to this point, but she fell into this area, and due to her injuries and the weather and not being found right away, she expired from those injuries and the climate? Maybe. I think it's much more likely, based on the condition of the purse, that there was definitely a struggle there. She was fighting back because someone wanted what was in that purse, and during that struggle, that strap was broken. Makes a lot more sense to me. The question is, who was it? Is it Elliot? Is this guy Alexander? Or is there somebody else?
Or both of them.
Or both of them.
Yes.
Well, we know Alexander was in prison at the time.
He was in prison, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't
it could have been
part
a
of it.
collaborative effort. And so there's a lot more here that needs to be looked into. This case is far from over, and the fact that they closed it is a blessing and a curse. The blessing is we have all the information. So as we're wrapping this up, we still have more to go here, but as we're talking about it, if you take anything from this, if you're from this area and you know of people or you can share this message, make sure you tell Megan's story, because at the end of the day, right now, the way it stands, they're not going to reopen this case. And we need to bring attention to it, not only in the Denver area, but also the state.
I want to ask you, you dealt with campus police, correct?
Yes, and yeah.
Also, and the sheriff's department in Boulder. And it was, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, it's your impression that they kind of decided what it was pretty early on. And do you think that has anything to do with, I don't know, maybe that being a college town, maybe not wanting
Not good for
parents to feel not
enrollment?
safe to send their children there?
Absolutely. When she was missing, we were putting up, well, first of all, they didn't want everything to be public. So we made our own posters and we were putting them up all everywhere. They were taking them all down because there were tours. This was February, so families, prospective families were looking. They didn't want us to go public with it. Of course, we put it all over Facebook. A really good friend of ours has contacts with the media, so Channel 9 News actually reached out, called me on my cell phone. I was like, look, and they came out to interview it, and it was such an awkward thing. They made us sit in this conference room while they waited, and, the acting chief and the media person was trying to figure out what they're trying to do with us. So after like an hour's of sitting there awkwardly, they made us go outside. And it's the middle of February. It's cold, and it was freezing cold. And they put us in front of this nondescript garage, parking garage. So you couldn't see kids walking in front of us. You couldn't see any of the noticeable CU buildings. They didn't want to have a missing CU student at that time specifically. They tried to bury it. They immediately said, no foul play. And then they waited to release the autopsy results until after school was out. Like, that feels very intentional to me.
I agree. I definitely agree.
That is very intentional. So what can we do? We first have some call to actions, and it's your regular things, but I also want to kind of go a little rogue here too. I'll talk about that in a second. All right, so there's a tip line. You can call or text 678-636-9771. You can also email trusselltips@vigilante-pr.com. There's a $1,000 reward being offered currently.
Yeah, but there's a good match it.
I will match it.
We will match. He'll
That is
match
true.
it. We'll match it.
That's it. In fact, if we have information that leads to an arrest, $5,000, I'll put towards it. So hopefully we get someone to come forward.
But have you been working with any lawmakers in the area?
Yeah, so Senator Janice Marsden, she's the representative of Boulder for this state. She's been very helpful. She's actually gone to the Boulder DA to try to put pressure on him to at least investigate the investigation, because anybody who, it's basic, right? Like they did a piss poor job. It's embarrassing to me, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I work in public education, and if I did a job that bad, I would be fired.
Yeah.
They didn't do their job at all, and they still tell me that we're just this sweet grieving mother who just can't come to terms with what her daughter did, but it just doesn't add up. I'm an educated, intelligent person, and none of it adds up, and they didn't do anything.
It really doesn't add up. And even as Derek said, yeah, could it have been an accident? Potentially, I suppose, yeah. Theoretically, it could have been an accident. That's more likely. But if it's an accident, why walk so far? Why not put a jacket on for the weather? Why would you take all of those pills?
And she just stopped at the store and bought something more practical,
NyQuil even, Benadryl, something, yeah.
And there's no destination there. Where she was walking, let's say it was an accident, she was walking somewhere, there's nowhere to go out there. There's nowhere where we can look in the distance and say, I know where she was going.
There's nowhere to go out there. And not only that, not only was it dark, not only was it cold, Megan was not the type of girl who was like, oh, I'm going to journey off into the dark cold. She's
she didn't
afraid
like
of
the dark.
Yeah.
No,
Afraid of the dark.
She was afraid of cut.
Yeah, afraid of the dark. 20-degree weather, afraid of the dark. No, this is a case that definitely needs to be looked into. The only other time we've ever done a podcast episode was for Praveen Verghese.
Praveen Verghese, yes.
Same thing. We kind of gave a platform where we allowed them.
Town.
Yep.
College Town was Carbondale, Illinois. College Town, and I've seen this happen in a lot of cases when it's a college town, when there's a university involved. They depend, and that area in general depends so heavily on enrollment and the tax benefits they're getting from being a university town. It's like a tourism industry almost. If something happens on a resort or a cruise ship like Amy Bradley, the cruise ship's not trying to announce it to everybody. People are on vacation.
The week after they found her body, Sundance announced that Boulder was one of the findings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we need to have an appearance that this is a safe place. This is it's not a place where college girls get attacked for the phone in their purse.
And that's the other reason they're trying out. So Sundance is coming to Boulder. Yes. The governor pitched in a bunch of money, like a third. C. Boulder pitched in a third, and then the city of Boulder pitched in a third. Like millions of dollars. Actually, Taylor looked at them. I don't know the exact figures, but there's a lot of money invested in that, in bringing Sundance to Boulder. It's a safe,
Yeah, having a murder at that point would not have been ideal for them.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Is there anywhere else where people can go, the website, anything that, other than the phone number we gave, where if they want to learn more information about Megan's case, they can go to?
We do have a Facebook page. It's called Megan Trussell Official, something like that. Actually, Justice for Megan.
We'll put it on our social media.
We'll put it on our social. It's on the Detective Perspective. I actually stole all your photos when I was doing my episode.
What about the CBI?
We're working on that. We're discouraged. So the Boulder DA has said that he will not investigate because the coroner's case is so strong about suicide, which I'm like, have you read it? Right? He's running for Attorney General, by the way, so.
Something to think about.
Campaigning against him.
So,
Another person, Jennifer Griswold, is running for Attorney General. She actually wants to bring it out. She's already said, well, look, maybe next week.
so we know who we're voting for Attorney General, right?
The petition that my niece made is to reopen the case, and that has gone to the current Attorney General who's running for governor. He sent an email to Janice Marchand yesterday saying he's not going to immediately open the case or ask the CBI to investigate. So we'd have one more last try with the governor. And the governor wants, so Senator Michael Bennett, I think she's running, what is he waiting for? He's running for governor. And so he would get to be his successor, and current governor wants to be senator. So all these people are in it together, and nobody wants anything to do with this. And nobody wants to say no either. But Senator Marchand said, well, if the governor's not going to take the case, he's the one that can direct the guy to reopen it or to open the case. She was like, we're not going to do it because he wouldn't have asked do I. And he's like, if you're not going to reopen it, then we're going to know the media. And they're like, no, you can talk to her lawyer to see.
Wow.
When was this? Yesterday?
So I got the email from Senator Marchand yesterday from the current Attorney General. I heard about the meeting with the current governor's lawyer on Thursday.
So when did they tell you not to go to the media?
Thursday.
How'd that work out for him? How'd that work out? Listen, I just wanted to say, both as parents, it inspires me what you're able to do to get up here and stand in this room and talk about your daughter and talk about her case. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of respect, and we're here with you. We'll see what we can do. Absolutely. Absolutely, Vanessa. Thank you. Thank you so much. This right here is so on brand for us. So on brand. It wouldn't be an episode if it wasn't all the technical differences. Listen, we got about 15 minutes left. We got microphones. We want to end it on a little bit of a lighter note. If anybody has questions that can be related to this case or something else, please feel free to come up, ask them. More than willing to answer the questions with the last 15 minutes that we have. We have somebody already. We'll go left or right. Fire away.
So I noticed a trend while we've been doing this with with this case, also with the Ellen Greenberg case, the case you mentioned at the beginning.
Talk about that.
It means
Devin Schmidt, yep.
Making these wild assumptions about suicide. Is there any consequence to that? Is there anything, that can be done when they're making these rulings that are so clearly wrong?
I don't know if there's a consequence, but what I would like to see is, at the end of the day, these are opinions. Yes, they're based on science, but they're open to interpretation, and you could have 3 different people look at it and come to a different conclusion. I would like to see a situation where if there's an appeal, There's a process in place that someone outside of that, another ME, whether it's from another state or another jurisdiction, would come in and they would be forced to give that opinion. Now, if you have 3 other people confirm what they said, you might be in a tough spot. But the fact that they are judge and jury, essentially, and you have to go back to that same ME in order to get anything done, well, what is the likelihood if that person came to a conclusion that they're going to change their mind after the fact and admit that they're wrong? Some may be willing to do that, but I think it's fair to say human instinct, most of them are not going to, and there's really no way to dispute them without it. So I think there should be some type of board, some type of appeal process where if there's a family and there's some evidence that suggests that what they're saying could be not what they have concluded, there should be an outside party who comes in and looks at what they did. Checks and balances. There shouldn't be one person making that determination.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering if there's been any DNA testing with the evidence that was found around her or any fingernails, or is that a lack?
No. As far as I remember, no. Right, Vanessa? Nothing. Problem.
They have that evidence in order to test. Do we know?
They should still have her fingernail clippings. They should still have all that. That's the point. Now imagine if a second pathologist came in to look at that. I don't know. We actually DNA is so critical these days, we can't say too much. I did want to announce it. Criminal Coffee. We funded our first case through you guys. We were able to solve it. Albert Frost. We had another case that we funded, a case out of Houston. We're not allowed to say any details, but we are happy to announce that the case was solved. Yep. And we're gonna be, should I tell them? All right, so I got in a little trouble because I emailed everybody, including the Houston Police Department, and basically was threatened that if I said anything, I'd have some legal problems. So Stephanie was like, don't do it, Derek, don't do it.
I did not see that.
Well, you were like, don't lean into it, let's not go there, which is fine, but they got a couple more weeks, and we might say it anyways.
Yeah.
As far as I'm
I
concerned.
think you did say we're going to say it anyways.
And yeah, the letter was pretty legit that they
They
sent
were like,
me.
don't you do it. And he was like, we're going to do it.
We'll go over here.
I just have one question about the teeth.
The teeth, yeah, sure.
If it was an accident, the teeth would be with her, right?
You would expect that, wouldn't you? Now, they were broken. I don't know if there was pieces, chunks off. They were just broken. But that is a good question. We don't know. I mean,
Accident, would it not be in her mouth?
Or
Yeah.
around her, yeah.
Around her?
Yeah.
you would expect
You'd think that, yeah.
I would think that there'd be more evidence of the other injuries that she had being sustained at that location. Maybe some blood or something. From what I understand, there was nothing.
Also, you think there'd be marks where she fell down, right?
Yeah.
Like slid down. Do you believe that it's possible she was killed somewhere else and
that's
then
what-
her
this-
body was transported there?
You just nailed it. I'm not even certain this is the primary crime scene.
Right.
This could be a secondary crime scene. She could have been dumped there. For all we know, whatever happened at Ebonji Park.
Yeah.
So that's my problem. That's my concern. So, but great question. It's a great question.
Hi guys.
Hi.
So I started my day today listening to Mr. Ramsey, his issues with Boulder police.
Nah, seems like they have some issues.
Starting my day hearing about negative and the problems with the Boulder police over the course of a 30-year period. In your opinion, what seems to be the problem with these people? Is it laziness, incompetence?
All of the above? No, do you want to go first? I'm talking a lot.
In my opinion, what do I think is wrong with them? I think when we talked about the Ramsey case, we said this was a police department that at that time had not seen that level of violence, had not seen that level of crime, especially not in a neighborhood like that. And if you ask me what is their problem now, decades later, yeah, I would say just incompetence. I would say wanting to create an illusion that Boulder is a safer place than it really is. And you see this in a lot of cities, right? You see this in a lot of cities where they downplay the crime rate. You want to encourage people to move there. You want to encourage people to send their kids to school there. You want to encourage people to go to events like Sundance there. Well, they're not going to want to do that if it doesn't feel like a safe place, if they feel like they could be mugged or robbed or murdered or, sexually assaulted. There's going to be less tourism. That means less money for the town, the city, the state. That's my opinion.
I don't think it's just isolated to Boulder. I think I look at it on a more macro level. I think what happens in a lot of investigations, not a lot, I shouldn't say that, but these investigations where we have issues, what happens is the police officer or the detective determines initially what they think happened, and then they find the evidence to support that theory, instead of just letting the breadcrumbs take them wherever it's going to lead them. And unfortunately...
So you're saying it's incompetence?
I would say hubris. I would say they get an ego about it. They think, they walk into it, they get the preliminary investigation, the details, they immediately rule it something, they find the evidence to support it, and if anybody comes in to dissent that opinion, now it's a competition. Now it's about who's right and who's wrong instead of what it should be about, which is the truth. That's the problem on a bigger macro level.
You said earlier that one of her shoes was missing and that she was wearing platform shoes.
They're white platform shoes. They almost look like Spice Girl shoes, if I had to describe them. Not that I listen to Spice Girls or anything, but I've heard they would look like that. Yes.
If she walked 52 minutes.
Yep. Any shoes. They're like this thick.
And lost one out of the way.
And we've never found that second shoe. Now, to your point, and I didn't get your name, I apologize. We talk about teeth. If it happened at that location, wouldn't the second shoe be there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like gym shoes or were like...
They're like sneakers, like kind of like my sneakers, but they have like a base on them that's like 3 inches thick. It's all foam, yeah. You guys,
They're
they were
fashion
popular.
shoes. They're not athletic shoes. They're not walking shoes. They're for fashion, not function.
But to your point, to walk an hour in them, not likely.
Hi, this one really hit me because I came here mainly because of one of my best friends' suicide, but we all know who did it and believe it's her husband. We're trying to get the case reopened. It was closed immediately. She was cremated like that. The body. One of the enemies said that it could be she was strangled. Then they brought in another and it was like, no, it's suicide. What I want to know, we're trying to get this case reopened, but we're like starting bottom. I'm curious what you would say. What can we do? Because we don't have the family involved. It's just a bunch of us friends, like we've known each other for 20 years. You know she wouldn't have killed herself. What can you do when the cops are, it's the same thing. It's almost uncanny how much this hit me. It's the same thing, so I don't know who to turn to or where to start. Do I get a PI?
I mean, well, you could get a PI to start building the preliminary case, but ultimately, if you really want to see action, you have to get the legislators involved.
Yeah.
Because even though it's not a matter of writing a new law, it's a matter of, again, politics, them going to the local mayor, whoever it might be, them going to the police chief, and it kind of trickling down to the detectives and saying, hey, guess what, wink and a nod, you need to relook at this. But overall, and I wish I had a better answer, you just need power in numbers, right? Unfortunately, just to be realistic, it's not going to be 20 people that building a strong case, whether it's through the private sector, presenting that to a legislator, politely letting them know that elections are, they're reoccurring, and maybe start a petition, a change.org type thing to show that there's a lot of people that want to see it relooked into. That's really the only chance you have, especially without family involvement.
Yes, I would say utilize social media.
Social media.
Started, yeah.
Look what we're doing here today. Look what CrimeCon's become.
Can I just ask, how much can you legally do without everybody's kind of worried about that?
It's a closed case. They ruled it a suicide, right?
So if it's like slander, we start hashtag for justice for her.
Justice for her is fine. I would avoid putting out the person you think by name because they're not a public figure unless they are.
Yes, don't do that.
That could be defamatory. Yeah, got to be careful with that. I think you can put out the information without putting out the name.
That's just
Good luck.
Good luck.
Yep. We'll take one more, and then we're gonna wrap it up.
We have 6.5 minutes. We can take 2 more. We have 6.5 minutes. Yeah.
You're the boss.
So I have a couple of thoughts. Since it's not considered a crime, what has happened with the evidence?
They still have it, correct? Yeah, they still have it.
So they don't have to keep it because...
How long? 10 years?
Sheriff keeps this for 10 years.
Sheriff keeps it for 10 years. Coroner keeps it for 2 years.
Okay, and then what about having a third-party autopsy?
Well, you couldn't ask for that. At this point,
I think the initial...
she's buried, correct? You cremated her. So there's your,
I think the initial autopsy showed injuries.
you didn't think there was anything to see. But they would still have the fingernail clippings and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's really what you would need.
And so then, what about having another Emmy
Agreed.
even to just look over the report?
Yeah. To bring this back quick with Devin Schmidt, and this was after the show happened, for anybody who watched that case, they ruled it as a suicide. I found out who went there. We had him arrested. We charged him with murder. Now, unfortunately, it went to trial, and they ended up dismissing the murder charge. He ended up admitting to the assault. But initially, when the Breaking the Homicide episode aired, he said he was never there. He hadn't talked to her that evening, went there to get his money, and he left. By the time we were done, just, independent, show doing their thing, he admitted to being there. He admitted to getting into an altercation with her. And unfortunately, due to an moronic judge, he beat it. And he had multiple offenses before this. But we got to that point where it went from a suicide because she had a large amount of cocaine in her body. I believe he stuffed it down her throat. He was a drug dealer. But it went from a suicide, similar case, to someone being charged with murder. So it can be done. We just got to keep fighting.
So why did we get to the evidence?
They keep it for this type of reason, because if someone comes forward,
They have to keep it.
now we have it. Now we have it.
If they didn't keep it, that would be more suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just real quick. I'm here with my sister. My sister-in-law, we live here in Denver. I know you said the Boulder gives you a lot of grief for hanging out in the bags. Make a sign. We'd be happy to go out and do it for you.
There we go.
A lot of people in this community want it, so
Yes,
Awesome.
exactly. I'm
Awesome.
like, what building are we chaining ourselves to tomorrow? What's
Awesome.
happening?
Last one.
Did any hear from any of the other college kids about maybe if there were other robberies or assaults or something in the area around that time?
Anything? Okay, here we go.
Come on up to the mic.
So the CPD report, which I have been asking for within months, since they just came out like 2 weeks ago. And I learned that there were additional tips that came in after Boulder County took it over. Boulder County never followed those tips. I don't know why CPD did, but there were some reports of suspicious characters. One man said another student said he thought he saw a man, and a suspicious person who looked like they were having some kind of mental health crisis was screaming, and the Hispanic female walked by and kind of looked at him, and the guy kept walking. So our private investigators didn't try to locate that person, but CPD didn't do anything with it. So there were additional
Leads to follow.
and it's when APR is getting additional tips, and has some pretty concerning ones. Our PIs, he hasn't started investigating that. He's working through the reports right now, trying to put together everything, but he's got a list of all the people he wants to talk to. But it's something I have to add is that coming here to CrimeCon, which I never thought I would be doing this. And yeah, I apologize a lot. I mean, I've watched every single Maitland episode and so I feel like in some way I've been preparing for this. Nobody ever wants to be prepared for anything, but like this. Paul Uribe, he's a forensic pathologist. I brought the autopsy and the toxicology, and I stood at his booth today, and he glanced through it, and he saw a lot of glaring contradictions and things that didn't make sense, and he told me he would look at it. Great charge.
Great. Great. CrimeCon. It's what makes it great. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, uplifted or like empowered or given a voice if you hadn't, given your story on your show.
Well,
66,000 views, that's a lot.
that's on video, and then another 100,000 on audio. Yeah, we get to. And to bring it back to Stephanie's question, should we do a deep dive on Crime Weekly? Yeah, we got. I think we knew that. I think we knew what the answer was going to be. I only
Get in
have
touch, you give me what you have, and
Yeah,
we'll cover
we're gonna go all in.
true Crime Weekly
We'll
fashion.
go all in.
Every detail.
Final word for me. just to see everybody here. This is more on a personal note, and I think I speak for Stephanie because we were talking about it earlier. The first CrimeCon we attended was 4 years ago or 5?
Austin.
It was Austin. I don't know if it was 4 or 5 years ago, but we had a little table, and candidly, maybe 30 or 40 people came up
It
with
was like
still.
25 people.
Maybe 25. I'm giving it. Can we have 40 at least?
I know you're increasing our numbers.
I know, and I think half of them were like, "Hey, you were on Big Brother." I don't even
And
think
then
you
the
were on
other half,
podcast.
and then the other half were like, "Who the hell are you guys?"
Yeah, they had
we're
no clue.
bored. Let's just talk to these people in the hallway.
To be here today and over these last 2 days and to see the line that came out to meet us and to see this room, I was joking with a lot of you, and trust me, I made notes. I was threatening half of you to show up tonight. But to see this room filled like this, to see that we've done this in a little over 4 years is incredible, and it inspires me as a creator, especially you, Vanessa, and the other families out there, to continue to do these cases, continue to grow, because the bigger we get, the more people we reach, and we can't do it without you. So for me, I just want to say thank you, for sure. I'll give you the final word. Stephanie's like, shut up, Derek.
I also say thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Be safe and have a good night, and we'll keep it rolling.